We are following what now resembles an ongoing slow-motion train wreck. That is Pete Hegseth's last-ditch effort to be confirmed by the United States Senate as Donald Trump's Secretary of Defense. We should tell you it is a fluid situation. If any news breaks or changes while we're on the air over the next 2 hours, we'll bring it to you at any point. For now, though, the scandal-ridden former Fox News weekend morning show host has been trying on Capitol Hill to persuade Senate Republicans that he is the man for the job. It is now a formidable undertaking, given the NBC News reporting we broke here on this program less than 24 hours ago, reporting that said that, quote, as many as 6 Senate Republicans, perhaps more, are currently not comfortable supporting Hegseth's bid to lead the Pentagon as new revelations about his past continue to be made public. It would appear Hegseth is undaunted by that report and plowing ahead with what now resembles a bit of a Hail Mary. With Hegseth writing in an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal this, quote, I have never backed down from a fight and won't back down from this one. Complicating things, however, for Hegseth is the fact that Donald Trump seems to have moved on. He's reportedly discussing replacing Hegseth with Florida governor and former Trump nemesis Ron DeSantis. Trump has reportedly been, quote, floating DeSantis' name in casual conversations with guests at Mar-a-Lago. Mark Caputo at The Bulwark reports that Trump and DeSantis, quote, have personally discussed the possibility. And this, quote, the talks relayed by 4 sources briefed on them are in their advanced stages. And you know, you had to make the rounds on Capitol Hill knowing that Trump is in the advanced stages of replacing you with somebody else. Maybe you would consider a media blitz with a friendly former Fox News anchor like Megyn Kelly, too. Listen to him with her trying to clean up the other piece of reporting that dropped 24 hours ago. The NBC News exclusive that 10 current and former Fox employees say Hegseth drank in ways that, quote, concerned them. That, quote, on more than a dozen occasions, they smelled alcohol on him before he went on the air. That this troubling behavior happened, quote, as recently as last month. And that, quote, his drinking remained a concern until Trump announced him as his choice to run the Pentagon, end quote. Not sure how you even begin to do damage control about that, but he gave it a go with Megyn Kelly today.
You are not allowed to drink while you're on deployment, right? So if you're in Iraq and Afghanistan in a combat zone, you're not allowed to drink. That's how I view this role as Secretary of Defense, is that I'm not going to have a drink at all. And it's not hard for me because it's not a problem for me. This is the biggest deployment of my life, and there won't be a drop of alcohol on my lips while I'm doing it. First of all, I've never had a drinking problem. No one's ever approached me and said, oh, you should really look at getting help for a drink. Never. I've never sought counseling, never sought help. I respect and appreciate people who do.
The things some of his former and current colleagues at Fox are saying to reporters that may or may not be reality. It is, though, where we start today with some of our favorite experts and friends. With me at the table, New York Times editorial board member and MSNBC political analyst Mark Gay. Also joining us in a second, tangled up in some Midtown traffic, Paul Rieckhoff will be here. But joining our conversation as well is political strategist and MSNBC senior analyst Matt Dowd. Matt Dowd, I start with you because this has become, and I should say, the reporting that broke 24 hours ago from my colleagues at NBC News, I think between the 2 stories, 14 sources, all of them deep within Hegseth circles. There are no Democrats who are saying things that they aren't saying in full view, but the people speaking anonymously are people who have had to get Pete Hegseth on the air while he smells like alcohol. They're people who describe how stressful it is to simply get a morning news show on the air. And I'm a cable host. No one lives or dies whether I'm on the air, but not so with the Secretary of Defense. And what sounds like a president in Donald Trump who's so transactional that he's moved on to option number 2, which we can talk about DeSantis in a moment. But it would be clear that the only person for whom the gravitational pull of this not working out isn't really abundantly clear is Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, it's great to be with you, Nicole, and I hope your holidays were great. Yeah, as I listen to this and watch this, I think anybody with a rational mind would have known when Pete Hegseth got nominated, he had a sell-by date. And I mean, just because of his background, just because of all the things you could track, he said, just because of things that were very common knowledge to most people, you would know that this guy is not going to last long, which is actually the surprising thing about this initial nomination was if you knew that, and I think Donald Trump probably knew that, he had to have known that, is that why you would nominate him this early and have a drawn-out examination of him. That's what amazes me, that it would be 2 months or more before he actually got a hearing. If you had known that about him, if you'd known somebody had a sell-by date, what you would want to do is nominate them like right after you become president and push the Senate to confirm him as quickly as possible and get through this before he sours. And that's not what Donald Trump chose to do. And so, this is now, it hasn't happened yet, but it will, if it looks like it will be the third nominee before we even get to the opening of Congress that is jettisoned at this point. And it's not, as you said, it's not because of any Democrat. All of these are because Republicans have we've identified at least some line in the sand where they draw on people in the course of this. And I'll just say on a personal level, that explanation that he had about drinking, and which I think actually is put Trump over the top in wanting to go to somewhere else, in my view. It's not the sexual assault stuff. It's not all the crazy stuff he said in his books. It's not all this outlandish stuff he said on air. It was the drinking, because we've known if there's one thing Donald Trump has personally talked about is that what happened with his brother and the drinking. And I just don't think Donald Trump tolerates it. It's one thing Donald Trump, he'll tolerate corruption, he'll tolerate sexual assault, he'll tolerate all these things, but he doesn't tolerate drinking. And so when I heard that, I thought, okay, that's the end of it. But that his explanation is, and people that like me or others who have dealt with people in our families or friends that have had a drinking problem, they all say exactly what Pete said. No one's ever told me, I've never gone to counseling, I don't have a drinking problem, until they get the DWI or until they get in the car crash. And what I'm hoping happens is this is Pete Hegseth's car crash or DWI, that, he actually is able to, go through a 12-step process. And the first thing he identifies is, I have a problem, I need to deal with it. But his explanation, anybody that's dealt with anybody or has gone through a problem with alcoholism, watched his words, and they've heard those same words over and over and over again. Until you hit a bottom somewhere, you're going to say exactly what he says. I don't have a problem, and nobody's ever told me I had a problem, until you end up in a jail cell, until you end up in a car crash.
Matt Dowd has brought this down to the human level, which is Matt Dowd's special gift. And at a human level, there's something, it is our job to cover these institutions and to give voice to people who can't speak out, right? The men and women of the military can't speak out. They can't go on Fox News. They can't go anywhere and weigh in on politics. But in the interest of the men and women of the military, having someone qualified and stable and viewed by their peers, whether they're at a nonprofit or whether they're at a news network, as capable is news. And covering a human being and the kinds of things that human being's own mother said about them. I will not play the interview of Pete Hegseth's mother on Fox News because there's something of a hostage tape feeling to me. I can't watch it without feeling so uncomfortable that this family is in this position. But it goes to something Matt Dowd said. There are human beings who are thrust upon the American public in the time of Donald Trump, who can't withstand the scrutiny because Donald Trump is so thoughtless in the picks he makes. And I'm just struck today by how unnecessary all of this is. That Trump he can appoint whoever he wants to any of these jobs. But the FU to the vetting and to the background checks and to the system of his own transit. I mean, Gates and Hegseth are born from Trump's own refusal to abide by his own sort of cockamamie orbits systems. That's how we got here.
Totally. I mean, Nicole, I'm also glad that you're not playing that video of his mother, because there is just part of you as a human. You can't help but watch this spectacle and just feel sorry for Pete
For all of them.
Hegseth and for his entire family. And of course, that is not what this is about. And I think it's really important that we remember that the reason he's under such scrutiny is because the president-elect who nominated him, as you said, has no regard for American institutions or for the military. And if he did, he would have taken this vetting process very seriously before thrusting someone like Pete Hegseth and his entire family and history and all of his exes, anybody who has come into contact with him into the spotlight for America to pick apart. And that doesn't look responsible. I think you have to also be asking, and I'm looking forward to talking a little bit more about this here at the table today, what this means to members of the military. I mean, many of my friends who I grew up with served in Iraq and Afghanistan. They are veterans. And I've spoken to them in recent days. They are looking at this and thinking, this man's going to lead us? I mean, I don't think so. Is he even going? I mean, this is really not appropriate. So it's really disrespectful. But I am heartened that these senators who are Republicans have made clear they will not be a rubber stamp. And, they've received security briefings. So let's remember that. Mm-hmm. They've got to be thinking, this isn't a reality show, actually. At the end of the day, we're talking about who's going to lead the military, domestic threats, foreign threats. This is serious business. They understand that. And I think, Donald Trump is being reminded by them that he might be feeling good politically, but he's not walking into the White House with carte blanche. There are other branches of government. And this is a good sign, I think.